From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, it's all about innovation. The first GM salmon are now growing in Indiana.
The early stages of production here are very, very similar to the rest of Atlantic salmon production at the moment.
The iron ox is using robotics to grow food of the future. A new process for processing milk.
The process that they put forward is in fact equivalent or better than the process of traditional pasteurization.
And the Silicon Valley of ag technology is growing its reputation in Memphis.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Today, we're talking technology as the world spins toward new and innovative ways to live. Agriculture is joining the movement. Silicon Valley may come to mind when you think about technology hubs, yet Memphis may be a new contender thanks to its focus on ag technology. AgDay's Betsy Gibbett has that story.
Memphis may be known for its familiar trademarks, music, Elvis, and barbecue. But some are trying to attach another name with the city.
I think it's the ag tech capital of the world, and I do think it will become more so in the years ahead.
Memphis may be growing with ag technology because it is located within an 150-mile radius of every major crop grown in the United States. AgriCenter International, a major player in field crop research, located there because of it. They have research plots with nearly 100 commercial partners, including non-disclosure agreements.
We'll look at products somewhere 3 to 5 years out. Those products will be very unique. They will be some type of either plant package, so it could be a GMO, but it also could be a very traditional crop or a traditional fertilizer or chemistry. We were very active several years ago looking at the new dicamba products.
It's all technology we may see the next few years. Something tech companies want to be a part of during field days too.
In the last few years, we've seen more micronutrient, soil health, microbiome kind of research than I've ever seen before.
So we have the production here, but we also have the companies here that are technology companies that are innovative and creative and that are looking to the future.
While it's drawing new companies, even think tanks like the recent Davos on the Delta conference are coming to Memphis, hoping to share ideas about agricultural innovation.
There's a lot changing in agriculture, that there may be as much as $1 trillion of new investment opportunity in front of us, and we might be seeing monumental changes in agriculture.
For now, Memphis may be the home of the blues, but its future could have farmers ready to rock and roll. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbett.
New ideas and new concepts are finding their way to traditional ag operations. In Georgia, one local vineyard is using technology to save money and improve sustainability. Damon Jones with the Georgia Farm Monitor reports.
From the outside, this might just look like another beautiful vineyard tucked away in the foothills of Yonah Mountain. But take a closer look and you'll find it's one of the most energy efficient, environmentally friendly operations in the entire state. In fact, they recently became the only winery on the East Coast to use solar panels as their main source of energy.
Well, we've actually been talking about solar since the beginning. We love to be on the cusp, the cutting edge. My father and I love technology and electronics, and we always loved this whole idea, and we married together with sustainability. We got the right solar company, and we got together with them, and they price it out for us. And so we said, let's get as big as we possibly can, and which is around 60 to 70% of our annual usage. And so we pulled the trigger last year. We started the project in August, and we finally came online late February of this year.
While the installation was both expensive and time-consuming, in the long run, it will not only help the environment, but their pocketbook as well.
So our March power bill was the first full month that we got. So last year's March bill was about $2,500, and this year's March bill was $800.
Between the solar panels, LED lighting, charging stations, and even a bee colony, Yonah Mountain Vineyards is helping lead the way in sustainability.
I always felt it was a huge necessity. Like, if we can help the environment and do more things for the planet and be more environmentally friendly and more sustainable in every single way we can, I think it's kind of our duty to do that.
That's not the only thing this operation is known for, though, as they also produce some of the highest quality wine on the market.
I said if I'm going to do this and make wine, I want to make really good wine. I don't want to just make wine. The way I determined that was blind taste tests. And I would take our wine against some fine wines out of California, $100 bottles, $200 bottles, gather people together. We'd have 15 people tasting, and 10 out of the 15 thought our wine would be better than the expensive wines from California. That's when we knew we had a pretty good product.
65 to 80% of the time, we will beat those wines. So we know that it's possible to grow good grapes right here in Georgia, and one of these decades, we're going to be on the map, just like Napa Valley or Burgundy or Bordeaux.
And that type of quality doesn't come easy, as they use some of the best products on the market while also paying attention to the small details.
To do what we do, our yeast product is much more expensive. We use French oak barrels, which are $1,200 instead of $300 American oak barrels. The energy effort we put into it is a lot more than what a very simple large winery would be doing.
While places like Napa Valley and Sonoma are considered the pinnacle of wine production in the U.S., Miller believes that Georgia could soon earn that kind of reputation.
So I love the wine snobs to come and visit us, because there's not a good reputation for wine necessarily in Georgia. A lot of people think it's not a very good product, so I just said come and see us, taste our wine, see what you think, and we turn people around.
Reporting from Cleveland, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
When we come back, a new way to process milk, and the inventors say it could change the way we ship and sell product. And later, what's a future without robotic farmers? We'll look at new indoor innovations, hoping to find their way to the table.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
An Australian inventor claims he's created a new way of treating milk without heat, allowing it to last for more than 2 months. The process has already passed safety testing. Experts say it could change the way milk is exported around the world. The concepts around milk processing have been pretty steady since the 1800s, but these Queensland inventors claim that's about to change.
It's a brand new technology, firstly. It's first of its kind in the world, and it provides us with an alternative to pasteurised milk.
They say this new way of handling milk without heat makes it taste fresher than milk sold in supermarkets, and it lasts longer, up to 60 days.
It's very much like, if you ever tasted it, milk straight out of the vat in the dairy. That's what the taste is like, a very rich, creamy flavour. So it tastes great.
Farmers hope the breakthrough could mean good news after a rough few years for the dairy industry.
It sounds like a really exciting development. I think there'll be a great opportunity probably for export into Asia.
Queensland company Naturo has secured international patents for its new process after 3 years of research, although it's yet to be licensed for sale.
They've supplied us with sufficient data to demonstrate that the process that they've put forward is in fact equivalent or better than the process of traditional pasteurisation.
The company won't reveal the secret to its new milk technology.
What I can say, it does not rely on heat as the means to kill the bugs. So it's a far more gentle process.
It's now in talks about setting up a pilot factory in hopes that its milk can make its way to shelves by next year. Up next, from horse and plow to the iron ox, how robotics is hoping to change the way we grow produce. And later, they may look like regular salmon, but these fish are a product of years of science and research, when they may be on the menu just ahead.
The IBM Watson Decision Platform for Agriculture, helping to feed a hungry world with the power of AI.
The future of farming may not rely solely on human hands. A Silicon Valley startup is ready to sell vegetables grown by robots at its indoor farm. Iron Ox is hoping to build robot farms near cities to supply restaurants and supermarkets with fresh produce. Meet a robot farmer as it delicately moves young plants from one module to another.
What that means is we're using robotics and AI to grow better produce.
The indoor nursery of robotically grown vegetables is the budding vision of a man whose roots stretch to his days working on his family's Oklahoma farm to the CEO of a new Silicon Valley startup that aims to feed people lettuce, basil, and other produce grown from the hands of robots.
We have a 1,000-pound mobile robot, lovingly named Angus, that navigates our farm autonomously, picks up one of these hydroponic grow modules, and then brings them over to this robotic arm.
Half hybrid car, half Roomba. After 2 years of tinkering with Angus and autonomous technology, Alexander's startup Iron Ox is ready to deliver its robotically grown crops to people's salad bowls. Iron Ox planted its first robot farm in an 8,000 square foot warehouse in San Carlos, California, about 25 miles south of San Francisco. It also relies on hydroponic systems for water to help conserve a resource, and the robots reduce the need to hire humans, who seem increasingly less interested in U.S. farming jobs.
Farming is facing a labor scarcity crisis that every farmer we've talked with, and we've talked with dozens, they all are facing the same issue. They cannot get enough helping hands.
As the world's population grows, Iron Ox plans to be part of the future if its system can make the leap from the small lab-like test bed to full-scale greenhouse.
Right now we're focused on business to business, selling product to local chefs and restaurants, serving the local community, as well as donating a portion of our produce to local food banks.
Not all innovations require high-tech solutions. Up next, an idea that's helping some cattlemen in Tennessee keep more feed for their cows. And later, are these salmon the future of fish farms? A look at the first genetically modified salmon growing in landlocked Indiana.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Not all innovations have to involve technology. Tennessee cattle farmers have a new, more efficient way of feeding their herds clean, dry hay. Charles Denny with the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture has more on keeping hay off the ground and getting more of it to the cattle.
Rather than have cattle eat off the ground, why not give them their own plate? The hungry herd at UT's Middle Tennessee Research and Education Center at Lewisburg mixes a little feed with hay as part of their diet. But it's not what they're eating, but where and how. The cattle, 200 head in the Tennessee Beef Heifer Development Program, grazed at a Fenceline feeder, one of 7 built at this farm. At some feeders, there's a concrete base for footing, and the hay is served from a higher point.
The animals are on a good pad, so from the animal health standpoint, they're not in the mud. We know from research that if we get above 8 inches of mud, cattle performance really declines.
Animals seem to like this system, and their human handlers do as well. The farm crew here says it's quicker, cleaner, and safer to feed the animals this way, and you don't run the risk of tractors getting stuck in the mud. This area saw heavy rains in late winter, and it's difficult to feed when the ground is spongy. The Fenceline feeders proved their worth in the challenging weather. By providing a flat, dry feeding area, less forage is wasted and trampled in the ground, and more ends up in the cows' bellies. And when such large animals congregate, they can injure each other and people. UT Ag research leaders like the improved safety.
It keeps the producer away from the crowd of cows trying to get to the hay bale, so there's not a chance of getting knocked down by an animal or accidentally spearing an animal with the tractor and that kind of thing, because you're on one side of the fence and they're on the other.
UT's Institute of Agriculture was able to do this construction with a USDA Climate Change Adaptation Grant. Climate change could include more pronounced floods and droughts in the future, and the Fenceline feeders could prove useful in either scenario.
So obviously in our livestock systems, when we have drought situations, we can't produce as much hay, so we want to see if we can make as much use of our hay as possible. Obviously if we have more floods, especially in the winter months, we're going to see significant hay losses there.
Also, the feeders have been strategically placed around this UT Ag Research Center, near hay barns and watering systems. If you can cut down on waste, save money, and increase production, That's a better way to farm. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. When we come back, from the land to the sea and back, how this company is growing what it hopes is the future for fish farming. That story is next. Ag technology isn't just about equipment or robotics. It's also genetics, and very soon, the first genetically engineered salmon will be headed for stores and restaurants across the country. Fish expected to grow twice as fast as regular salmon. Inside a sprawling complex in rural Indiana, thousands of salmon eggs are hatching into tiny fish. Years in the making, the eggs were shipped to the U.S. from Aqua Bounty's Canadian location in May, after clearing final regulatory hurdles.
The early stages of production here are very, very similar to the rest of Atlantic salmon production at the moment. The fish are reared in tanks, in hatcheries, in the nursery aspect.
But in this high-tech facility, that's where normal stops.
Where it starts to be different is that we take the fish at a time when they would usually be transferred into sea cages, and we continue the process in tanks with systems that clean and reuse the water.
Managing the systems and creating a high-growth environment is the key.
We have mechanical filtration, also biological filtration, and we also handle gases, so removing carbon dioxide and supplementing oxygen into the water. What that allows you to do is consume a very small quantity of water relative to the amount of fish that you can produce. We also, adjoined to the facility, we have a plant that's specifically designed to remove the waste, the solid waste from the water, and we have a series of wetlands that provide the final biological polishing of the water.
These Atlantic salmon with DNA from another fish grow to full size in about 18 months, about twice as fast as regular salmon. The company says that's more efficient since less feed is required.
What this effectively does is it allows the salmon to grow year-round, so in the winter and the autumn as well as the spring and the summer, which means instead of taking 3 years to reach full size, the salmon take 18 months.
After growing to roughly 10 pounds in indoor tanks, they could be served in restaurants by late next year. Recent approval by the Food and Drug Administration means the salmon produced by Aqua Bounty are the first genetically modified animals approved for human consumption in the U.S.
FDA has reviewed the safety data around the genetically engineered salmon and determined that there's no food safety or nutritional difference between that salmon and a normal Atlantic salmon that was farm raised that you'd get in the supermarket today.
They represent one way companies are pushing to transform the plants and animals we eat. Aqua Bounty worked through years of regulatory approvals, and it hasn't sold any fish in the U.S. yet, but it says its salmon may first end up in restaurants or university cafeterias, which would decide whether to tell diners that the fish are genetically modified.
The law does, Congress exempted restaurants and also parts of supermarkets that prepare food that you take to eat, either eat there or to take home to eat, aren't required to do any disclosure. And that's that's not unusual, because similarly when you go to a restaurant you don't get the ingredient list or the weight of the ingredient, so a lot of the information you would get when you purchase a food.
Aqua Bounty says it's received 90,000 eggs and expects 80% of them will survive to be harvested. It expects the cost of these genetically engineered fish to be comparable with conventional salmon, and it's hoping even more so.
So salmon farming in general is not a very sustainable industry. It's a carnivorous fish. You need about 5 kilos of other wild fish as feed to make 1 kilo of salmon. It's almost like farming tigers in the sea from that point of view.
In the U.S., several grocers such as Kroger and Whole Foods have vowed not to sell the fish following a consumer campaign. Genetic engineering is not the only alternative way to produce fish. That's according to Finless Foods, a startup in Emeryville, California. That company is producing fish grown from cells in a laboratory. It's a few years away, but the company says it currently costs $19,000 to produce a pound of fish.
There are all sorts of people out there who have done animal cell culture in large quantities. Right now, Samsung is building the largest animal cell production facility in the world in Korea. And so that model can really be expanded and can be used in our industry as a blueprint of making this at large scale.
Selden is confident that the product which finally goes to market will be competitive on price as well as taste. New technologies hoping to one day find their way from tank to table. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spend part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.